All right, I'm live. So welcome back, everybody. We are live. This is the last set of sessions for the 2020 season, and we're excited to be here back in the Waukegan studios. We were going to be in Lake Zurich today, but due to COVID and increasing cases, everybody decided that it would be best that we were to be working virtual today. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the 220, what we learned during 2020 for Select Chicago and this program. We have a lot to cover. We've had a great time doing this, and we'll be wrapping up with what we are planning for 2021. And I wanted to thank you for spending your time with us today. This is a big week for a number of virtual conferences. This is Global Startup Week or Entrepreneur Week, which has 180 countries participating. We're looking forward to trying to coordinate with them next year for some events. Kansas City, Missouri in Kansas City, Kansas has a tremendous amount of sessions today. I think there's about 15 of them happening. And what's also exciting is this week, Kelly O'Brien with the Alliance for Regional Development is hosting a week-long session with the Chicago Federal Reserve talking about multiple different things at a hyper-policy level. And so I did want to thank you all today for spending some time with us, and let's get started. And if you didn't know, so getting started, my name is Michael Edgar. I'm president of the Select Chicago Program. Select Chicago Program is a program of GWDC, a not-for-profit economic development corporation that assists economically challenged communities and promotes growth and development. We have a lot of fun doing this. It's built by business owners. Select Chicago is built by business owners and municipalities looking to grow the entire entrepreneurial stack across the region. And so we're going to go into the first slide. And so I just want to see the slides are up. And slides are up. And so today we're just going to go to the third slide. Again, I'm Michael Edgar, president of Select Chicago. Today we're going to be covering what's changed since we last met, what we've learned over the last 8 weeks, and what is our take on the road ahead. So what we're going to be doing is we'll talk about the next 90 days, what we think is midterm, what we think is long-term, and then what we're doing for Select Chicago. And so our sponsors this year are SITCA, the International Trade Association of Greater Chicago, our corporate parent of GWDC, Alliance for Regional Development, Jones Lang LaSalle, or we now call it as JLL, Michael Silver Accounting, Euler Hermes, MGP, Excel, the Excel Group, which does labor and staffing, Yona Solutions, which does cleaning, Denton's Law, Waukegan Community Bank, Enterprise Estonia, Ruatha Consulting, the VD Companies, which provides insurance, all forms and shapes for commercial businesses, the Polish Investment Trade Agency, and RFK Global, who also works with us for different boutique legal services. So one of the things that we want to also thank is our steering committee for 2020. And I'm pleased to announce that all of our major steering committee members are coming back for 2021. This year we've had the City of Elmhurst with Aaron Jason, City of Michigan City, Indiana with Clarence Hulse, Elk Grove Village with Josh Grosden, Village of Arlington Heights with Michael Mertz, Village of Lake Zurich with Roy Witherow, Village of Skokie with Leslie Murphy, Will Cook Enterprise Zone, which is being coordinated by Sandra Zoliner, and Whiteside County with Gary Camarano. So we've talked about during this past 8 weeks the Select Chicago Funnel, which is working with our global partners, more like Select USA, where we will get information in companies that are looking to set up shop in the United States. We then start working with our local regional partners as well as Greater Waukegan Development Coalition, or GWDC, in helping vet private-public partnerships to put together projects that actually could be installed in our communities. We've had a lot of great success this year. had a number of companies from Lithuania. We have some companies from Australia, and we're really excited about how this deal flow model is working well. And so over the last couple of years, we're now working with over 40 countries. And this is a slide that we had earlier in the year. Honestly, we forgot to update Uruguay, which was speaking with us this summer, and we're really excited to add them as another of the Select Chicago countries that we work with on a regular basis. Throughout this year, there's going to be a lot of changes worldwide happening, so we're excited to be engaged with our trade commissioners in Chicago, but also, even though there's 50 different trade commissioners in Chicago, there's many more from around the world, and we're looking forward to working with them out of New York or DC or Houston or LA. Over the time that we've been operating as Select Chicago, the last 5 years, we've worked with over 80 communities, all within 300 kilometers of O'Hare Airport. Why is that important? Why are we looking at 80 or 300 kilometers from O'Hare Airport? That's just far enough to drive to Chicago's airport to be able to fly around the world. We all do not like moving from airport to airport to get from one place to another. The idea of the Select Chicago geography is really to work within that boundary box, and it has such great talent and diversity that there's a lot of commercial development that could happen here. So what have we learned over the last 8 weeks? Over the last 8 weeks, we've had over 40 sessions. We've had over 77 speakers, 15 companies pitching. Regional information was discussed, as well as learning about local resources. And what I mean about regional information, we're talking about learning about accessing the Estonian market, the Uruguay market, the Polish market, the Italian market. Not to mention both Canada and Mexico. We've had a lot of fun working with all of these trade commissioners, learning about that inbound and outbound FDI, which is really the main thrust of this program, is facilitating foreign direct investment, inbound and outbound, because that's how you build bridges, that's how you build partnerships in a win-win environment. I was talking about some of the highlights about inbound and outbound. We had Sitka come in and talk about the new NAFTA. We worked with the state of Indiana talking about inbound and outbound investment in India. We've also worked with different trade commissioners coming in and talking about what it's like to have people coming in. When we had why they selected Chicago, we brought in companies to say this is why we felt that the Chicago region, and we really look at this as the Chicago regional area or the greater Chicago region. And within that region, there's roughly 25 million people. And if it was its own country, it would be the 20th in GDP in the world. And so there's such a great untapped market here that is ripe for development and expansion. And when we had why they selected Chicago, we brought in Dominic Janes from the Unity Group, Mike Guido from Sol Air out of Michigan City, Indiana, and we had Dr. Andreas Eckelstein from the German Trade and Investment program with the area of Niedersachsen. And we just such great information. And what's great about this platform as well, all the sessions of the 40 sessions are recorded, and we're able to go back in time and watch them asynchronously. We had pitch sessions. This was new this year versus other years. We had for our first set, we had Enterprise Estonia, and we had Coda, Cleveron, and Pactum. Since we've had that session on the 30th of September, most of these companies have already made inroads with talking to local providers or different things. I know Coda has been talking with the Village of Arlington Heights and the Village of Park Forest, and really starting to say, okay, this is what's needed in this market. This is what's so nice about this platform is when companies come in and pitch, we start to get to know, like, and trust you. And no sale is going to happen until people want to buy from you, if they like you and trust you. And so the pitch program has been fantastic to be able to bring that information together. We also had a pitch from Bank Vault out of Australia. He recently just got his patent and now is able to acquire venture capital to help grow their program. Graham is still locked down in San Francisco, and he's still talking with his team of 30 developers in Australia, and they have great plans for 2021. Also, we had a pitch from the UAE, and a gentleman looking to develop his adult baby monitor is the best way we could phrase that. It will be nice to see as he's now using some of the resources with IMA, as well as a number of the mentors that work with the Lake County Tech Hub, which is a program of GWDC, as well as a lot of contacts and resources throughout the entire system of Select Chicago. We also had some really great things about learning about from the Commons. How is the state of Wisconsin helping retain talent and draw talent to their regions? And so we have great sessions from Joe Peschel. We also learned from the city of Milwaukee what they're looking to do. And we also had a number of different resources on how to use venture, how to grow your company when you have no money with Mike Moyer and Slicing Pie. One of the best things or exciting things that came out of this whole program is just what we started doing with Poland. And Poland looks at the Chicago region as a great synergistic model to have partnerships. So between we were calling it the Chicago-Poland Technology Bridge. So for our sessions on the 20th of October, we built an entire day up in Milwaukee about how different places from around the world are able to work together. So as you can see, we had pictures of our staff, so we get everything behind us, and we're excited to have most of these same folks with us inside the studio today. But we talked about IT startups know no borders. It was a great, solid presentation talking about entrepreneurial stacks and venture capital and where IT startups can happen anywhere. Talked about the future of e-commerce and how things are just completely shifting because of not only COVID, but COVID really accelerated these trends as we were already going into them. Innovation ecosystems, what it looks like and building out these pieces. And then we also had multiple pitches from companies looking to establish shop in the States. Okay, so this is great. So, some of the things that we're going to go to next, and those are some of the recaps of the highlights. Come back, through the end of this year, anybody can be on these sites or come back to our site within the sessions. All of them are recorded, all of them are posted, and there's over 350 people registered for this event. So even if you're not seeing them live and in the hallways right now, this information on learning from the sessions is available online, but also being able to connect with those 350 attendees is all through the search bars. And so we'll be able to talk a little bit more about that through email after we wrap these sessions today. So we're going to take a good 20 minutes starting to talk about the things that have changed since we last met. It's been 3 weeks, and what a 3 weeks they have been. Not only have we had an election, we've had a spike in COVID cases, and now we have two prospects for drugs for vaccines for the COVID virus. But there's also, I believe, 6 more candidates that should be coming through in the next couple of weeks to get more data. So really, as much as we know about uncertainty in the election, we know about the strife that's going on nationally, the strife that's going on worldwide. The optimism piece that I only found out about this morning is there's pretty much an 80 to 85% probability that there will be 25 million doses for vaccinations before the beginning of May in 2021. That is big news. We've all pivoted over the last 6 months, 10 months. We have remote learning. We have kids home from college. We have kids that are starting kindergarten and coming from home and trying to learn new skills. We've had people really sucking up it up and actually grinding out to make the best that we can. But if you start looking under the hood of the economy, it's actually doing a lot better than we thought. Yes, we have interesting, almost all-time highs in the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ and the S&P, and people are going, well, how is that divorced from the real economy? Well, the real economy is with the stimuluses that we had earlier in the year and a push of liquidity. There's been a lot of purchasing power happening behind the scenes. And so this is really starting to move us towards growth in 2021. There was a lot of people who moved cash on the sidelines, and I'm definitely not an investment broker. I give no information about that. It's just what I see from my anecdotal evidence. But honestly, there's so much money to be put into the market and get put to work. We are really going to be seeing some interesting things going ahead. And so what's fun is I built this slide 2 days ago. It's kind of interesting that where we've gone just in 48 hours, where we have memes about winter is coming have been all over the place. And so the next 90 days, that's what we're really going to be talking about right now, are these next 90 days. And it's so interesting because we've been told a lot of doom and gloom, winter, things spiking, but I think just in the past 48 hours how much that has changed. But let's talk about some of the other things that aren't changing immediately. City of Chicago itself, state of Illinois are promoting much more lockdowns. We've had a spike in cases. We were planning on filming in Lake Zurich today, and we got a call at 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon that was going to need to be pivoted to remote. I'm very thankful for our team here that was able to pivot on a dime and set back up in the Waukegan studio. So we have lockdowns coming. We have this vision of doom and gloom winter. But really the important thing is through this uncertainty, a number of things are coming out. Right now I added, we had a coin flip during this uncertain times. The election did come out to a lot of interesting things, and the Senate race that's going to be decided on January 5th is really going to either cement the ability for gridlock in the Senate, or it will be a 50-50 break between the Republicans and the Democrats. Why is all this important? A lot of different structural changes are looking to happen, but because we've had such a divided House, all the economists that I've been talking to and learning from over the last 6 weeks or 4 weeks have been really saying that it's really going to be hard to push anything radical out. There might be some changes, but these are all relevant in these long-term trends that we're already going on. So a move to an Internet of Things, a move to more telemedicine, a move to a digital economy, all of these things are already kind of baked in, but how we get through the next 90 days is really starting to get ready for that future. So as that slide comes up, let's talk midterm. So we're talking not midterms 2022 elections, we're talking midterms starting at about 90 days. So 90 days to 2 years out, a lot of the things that were happening with COVID that really helped break the international supply chain are going to stay broken. We have heard from Harry Moser earlier in the summer talking about the need for a just-in-case supply chain. That's not going to change. Even with the new Trans-Pacific Partnership that China was signing with, I think, 11 countries this week, and even if the United States doesn't embrace that, it really doesn't matter. The United States can produce and develop about 90% of everything that it needs, and with our trading partners within Canada and Mexico, it really is a force to be reckoned with. The important thing to know is that with uncertainty around the world or global unrest, whether it be Russia, China, India, Latin America, also Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Africa, with all of these different players happening, the supply chain is going to be reconciled. And that supply chain is really going to go from this worldwide piece to kind of a hemispheric piece. This is what I've been talking with a number of people. This is also why we brought on the trade commissioners and consul generals from Canada and Mexico to really talk about these opportunities. This is going to be one, geographic, economic trade market, and it already has been. It's been building that way for over, since '92 with NAFTA, and that trend is always going to increase. What have we learned about work from home? That's that thing on the bottom where I do believe, and I'll break with our demographers that we've had, and I really see the millennials who are in that section of their lives where they are looking to do household formations. If they do not need to be in an urban center, they won't be. I've been talking to a lot of my real estate professionals that if you are able to move from the city, you're moving from the city. If you have the means to get to a suburb, you're getting to a suburb. One of the things that comes from the work from home piece was a great economic lecture I attended last week, which was from Fifth Third Bank. And they were saying that in January of this year, roughly 8 to 9% of people worked from home on a majority basis. Currently, because of COVID, that's 25%. So 25% of the people in the United States are working from home. They do expect a snapback, but as this settles out, we're looking at roughly 15% of people working from home. We had a pretty loose vacancy market in urban districts, and for the downtown metros of Chicago, Atlanta, New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, you name your top 50 metros. But what we're seeing is if you take away, say, call it 5% of that market, it's going to become very loose and prices will be declining. Most large corporations that we're talking to are continuing with work from home, but they're also going to hub and spoke, where they may have a corporate office and a flag in a big metro, but in the suburban market, closer to where most of their topper employees live, they're going to set up satellite offices. So this is a real great win for all of the suburban communities in the Select Chicago area, where when we were talking with Elmhurst last week, they have 3% vacancy in their downtown district. We'll be talking with Lake Zurich in a little bit, talking about how they've weathered the COVID piece. But if you have a walkable urban downtown, and we're still talking something small enough to get your head around, but just large enough to be anonymous if you want to be. We're talking about that for Milwaukee, but mainly we're talking about these municipalities that are in that 55,000 to 80 to 100,000 person range. They're going to do exceedingly well over the next, in that midterm, as people are going up. And we're seeing that with price of lumber. We're seeing that with price of lumber is up almost 180% from pre-COVID levels because of a surge in new home building. Also, what's going to be very important going forward is access to capital. There has been a huge growth of people starting their own businesses. As many of you know, Select Chicago is a part-time job for me. I also run an architecture office. And what we're seeing is a number of these people who are, call them 50 to 65 years old. They're leaving corporate America. They are being downsized out, but they don't want to go find another job. They want to find another company. We saw this during the 2006 to 2011 Great Financial Recession, where a number of people are leaving corporate America, finding that their skill sets and their passion, they want to control their own destiny. We've talked with a number of different people opening restaurants. We've talked to people wanting to open some new offices. We've also been looking at other people that are just trying to expand into new things. Access to capital is key. One of the other programs with GWDC is our Access to Capital Working Group. And as you see with this slide, we're working with CIBC, Huntington Bank, Gurnee Community Bank, Baxter Credit Union, Exxion, Lake Forest Bank, Summer Corps, and the Chicago Community Loan Fund. We're already working with, talking with multiple people at these offices, learning about access to capital for people learning to expand their businesses. Why does that matter for what we're talking about with Select Chicago? Well, as we've been getting a number of inquiries about people wanting to open up facilities, it's still the range. These businesses are still startups. Some are looking to create export of wine or import from countries to here. Others are looking to honor purchase contracts from large companies, and they have to have a presence here. All of those look at capital. All of those look at investment. How that works in that entire stack is going to be important. And what's really exciting is with the excess liquidity that we have in our current markets, banks are looking to lend. Yes, more than likely we're going to get more stimulus coming in roughly end of December, January, but there's enough economic indicators that are saying we really don't need that. Scary enough, if you think about state of California, their sales tax revenues are up year over year. A lot of the states really are not needing the stimulus monies to affect growing the economies. I think a lot of it is coming into needing that hand-holding to help people get through this time, get themselves straightened out and ready to build companies. And it's going to be an interesting piece because we'll get into sectors in a little bit, but just there's so much liquidity out there that anybody who really has a business plan and some drive and potential can really build anything that they want. All right, so we have about 25 minutes to get through still a number of slides because we have a lot going on. So what's our take on the road ahead long term? What are the things that are not changing for the greater Chicago region? We've already talked about the airport. With 64 international nonstop destination flights per day out of O'Hara, that's huge. Not to mention if you go to Detroit, Milwaukee, or Minnesota. Other things that aren't changing anytime soon. This region has most of the fresh water, easily accessed fresh water on the planet. We all understand climate change is out there. We all understand that fresh water is an important piece from a geographic perspective. The greater Chicago region is situated nicely to weather out the next 100 to 200 years. Another interesting idea that was floated the other day, excuse the pun, was a maritime superhighway. So this was in Forbes earlier in the week of reviving a plan that was developed in the mid-2000s about how do we capitalize on the rivers and the lakes system throughout the United States. 1/3 of an entire maritime superhighway to move freight and goods originates in the greater Chicago region. So we're talking the Port of Indiana, Port of Chicago. We're talking about down, a little bit outside of our area, but getting down to the Mississippi along the Ohio and the Illinois River. Not forgetting our friends out in Whiteside County. They have docks and levees that can get you out to the Mississippi as well. And if we are worried about climate change, it is so much more environmentally beneficial to move things slow on a barge than on a truck. So if you have goods and services that could be moved using the inland port in Joliet, so to say, to get on barges, you're able to really help reduce your carbon footprint. So that's one of those pieces. The next thing that we have for the greater Chicago region is demographics. Peter Zahan wrote a wonderful book called Disunited Nations, which came out in January of this year. He talks about the changing world order post the collapse of the Berlin Wall. But mainly he's really pointing out some of the things that are immutable, which is in both China and Japan, there are more 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds than all of the ages underneath them combined. And so why that doesn't seem to matter now, because the 30 to 45-year-olds are the people who spend the most in the economy, there is not enough workers underneath them to replace them as they age out. So if we have China on the left-hand side of the screen and Japan on the right-hand side of the screen, in the middle is the demographics for the greater Chicago region. And as you see, it's a Coke bottle. It's not even really a Coke bottle. It's almost a cylinder. And what that means is we have generational access to talent and labor. So if when we were talking with a company yesterday that's looking to expand from a foreign country here, we weren't talking about the labor market that's here today. We were talking about the labor market that's going to be here in 5 years. The greater Chicago region has a huge labor market that will be stable really over the next 30 years. So if you're looking to invest and you want to have some certainty, the things that this area has is water and talent. Notice everything like money can be moved around. Talent is important. Water is important. Access to markets. Also, we're in a temperate climate. Yes, it gets very, very cold in the winter and sometimes very, very hot in the summer. Occasionally, we'll even have wildfires when it's dry, but nothing like the issues that are happening on the West Coast. Nothing like that is happening with the floods that happen routinely in the South. So I'm not trying to disparage other sections of the country, but from a risk perspective, we have tornadoes and they show up, but they're pinpoint isolated. They're not huge issues. And yes, there are huge issues. Don't let me belittle that. But honestly, from a regional perspective, tornadoes are something that you can contend with. Drought, famine, pestilence, not so much. But access to fresh water is something that really sets this area apart. So long term, we're talking, 10 to 30 years out, getting a stakeholder status in the greater Chicago region will really do you well. It's the center of the country. We have access to both Canada and Mexico with the free trade agreements. This region still, again, is the top 20 economic driver of the world. That position may only get better over the next 20 to 30 years. Opportunities comes into we covered these in some ways, but they're important. We're going from a just-in-time to a just-in-time and just-in-case supply chain. A lot more supply chains are going to be developed and moved through both Canada and Mexico. And we're really going to be looking at that as a good way of moving goods and services. Another thing is towns that need to get their, not their act together, but what most of the towns that we work with Select Chicago have plans for their walkable urban downtowns. With good 5G networks or even strong 4G networks or fiber, you can work from anywhere. So it becomes destination development of why you want to work and live in a walkable urban community. So much of this comes back from the policymakers in the 1930s and 40s and creating some of the new town movements. You can even go back into the 1920s with different modalities of what that looks like. But mainly a lot of municipalities that want a walkable, livable community are going to thrive. So for our municipalities, having a plan on attracting and retaining talent, working with different areas. I think I'll give a shout out to Michigan City, which has great apprenticeship programs and it has great promise scholarships and are really looking to build out their community, but also so does Whiteside County out in western Illinois. They have such great programs to attract and retain talent. And honestly, the greater Chicago region is not a one-size-fits-all. It's very individualistic, and you can find the place you want to be, and that will happen regardless over time. So I think these are some exciting things. One of the things that's really important is knowing that the greater Chicago region is a diverse market economy. As in that we have some nice slides from World Business Chicago talking about the different sectors in Chicago, and no one sector is larger than 14% of the market. Unlike in LA, where you have the entertainment industry, in Houston you have I think the energy market's a lot smaller than it was in the 80s. But we're still looking at about 7 or 8 different sectors that are driving the economy. So that gives you, again, if we're looking for security and we're looking for stability, the greater Chicago region is important. Another thing that is exciting is the sectors that we have in this area. I mean, we're looking what Select USA did about 2 years ago, or as part of it, talks about where the United States could compete globally in sector growth. And Select USA talks, there's 17 of them, and I'll rattle them off very quickly, but it's aerospace, agribusiness, automotive, biopharmaceuticals, chemicals, consumer goods, energy, environmental technology, financial services, logistics and transportation, machinery and equipment, media and entertainment, medical technology, professional services, retail trade, software and IT services, textiles, travel, tourism, and hospitality. Why did I just rattle off 17 different sectors? Is because we need to have that common language across all development going forward for this greater Chicago region and saying this is what the United States or the Select USA program defines as these markets versus what some of the markets that are showing up in different demographics. So if you are trying to measure apples and comparing it to oranges, it's not going to work very well. But based on the United States data, the areas that we're seeing that the greater Chicago region can compete with is biopharmaceuticals, energy, agribusiness, environmental, technology, logistics, automotive, and financial services. And so why that's all important is because the entire country, as we are starting to ramp up into recovery, is rallying around the national critical technologies. National critical technologies is kind of an interesting thing. There was a national critical technology list that was built out in 1995, and it's aligns mostly with that. And it talks about the technology categories that the United States needs to maintain in order to just complete or continue on self-sufficiency is materials, manufacturing, information and communications, transportation, living systems, energy, and environmental quality. So really all these trends we're talking about with these sectors matches up to things that we've been talking about since 1995. Why is that important? Again, and I'm sorry I'm kind of going long on this, but we had Allison Germack from the Development Finance Corporation for reshoring, which is really when we're talking about rebuilding just-in-case supply chains, like vaccines, for an example. There are money and programs available to help technical assistance for companies looking to build that. The SBA has a huge mandate on already a tremendous amount of existing programs and services helping businesses start up and develop and grow. We've also been talking about the Defense Logistics Agency. So the Defense Logistics Agency has got a very interesting mandate of working out how you can do procurement with the federal government for United States corporations. There's nothing saying that companies that are U.S. subsidiaries of foreign companies that are more than 51% owned by Americans can't be selling to the United States government. We've been talking a lot about that on some of the other boards I serve. Last, in the road ahead is talking about much more inclusive development. That's a UN mandate that is a lot of central bankers are looking for equitable growth. So the Office of the Minority Business Development Agency, which is a subsector of the Department of Commerce, they're going to have an outsized role coming forward. And also the military, as in we're hardening our supply chains. So there are tremendous opportunities that are all coming up with a whole bunch of excess liquidity. So that's my take on the year ahead, on what the long term and the opportunities. So what is our year ahead for Select Chicago? So Select Chicago has, I'm really thankful for our sponsors and for our partners and our trade offices and our communities for really helping us pivot. And we've been already talking about coordinating delegations and soft landing assistance. That's where probably the majority of my time is going to wind up. Continuing to support ITAGC and Sitka. International roadshows and conferences when we can travel. I was supposed to go to Hanover Messe in May of last year. That did not happen. We're trying to see if we can get me out to Poland in September of next year. Developing new training and networking opportunities. Again, looking at the vaccine and getting back to some semblance of a hybrid normalcy. Meeting together in mid-2021. Select USA is kind of hedging their bets. They've been doing a tremendous amount of online conferencing, but they had slated mid-June for Select USA 2021, and so that's going to be big. But also we're going to have some carryover with a new administration, so it's kind of a hedging your bets on how that's going to go. And then we'll be doing our Select Chicago FDI workshop series, which I'll talk about next in a minute or two. So I get to go fast now. So Brian's telling me we're starting to run low on time. We have our online community opportunity portfolio. That's only going to grow as more time from our municipalities are able to put into the projects that they're looking to do. With the opportunity portfolio, we're going to be working with market-ready properties. Downtown Lake Zurich, which we're going to talk about next, already has their ducks in a row talking about development. Other places that GWDC is able to help is working with municipalities, creating spadework-ready programming like we did down in the Village of Bradley. And what I'm really excited to begin talking about is our new workshop series. We found that developing this content and engaging our community on a regular basis is important. Weekly was a bit too much. I think everybody will be excited to take the holidays off and then come back with what we're calling our One Series. And our One Series is one community, one country, one topic, and 3 company pitches. And we've been talking with a host of countries that are looking to embrace this. We've been talking with the Netherlands, the Philippines, Poland, Estonia, but also Spain. We're looking to really expand this into some partners we haven't worked with in the past to learn more about their opportunities. Creating topics of interest, so definitely email us to say, this is what I need to know. We get so many different questions of what I need to know. Everything from EB5, where we learn EB5 applications, even in the middle of this pandemic, are way up. We people who want to know about HR law. All of these things we have people to help bring this in. But aligning these countries, these sectors, these communities to bring in topics of interest becomes this great format, bringing in 3 companies every month to pitch. As it looks like right now, we'll probably be in the Waukegan studio for January, and I think we're just going to hold to that to allow us to spend some more time. But we've got a lot of great work, and we've had some exciting discussions with Italy, so we're going to see if we can really build upon that. But these are going to be monthly programs. They're going to be on the second Wednesday of every month. We get to sleep in for our Chicago folks and come in at 8:30, 8:45, and end at 11:45. What is wonderful about this program is when we start ending at 11:45, when we go to a hybrid model, because we know the hybrid model will be with us forever, we're going to be able to host lunches for ticket holders to come and be part of this and really gain and develop this program further. So we're really excited to bring that together. And what's also last important piece before I say thank you is everybody who's a ticket holder now, all 350 of you, we have an early holiday present for you. Your tickets will allow you to come into this virtual portal and enjoy all this new content all the way through end of 2021. So this is a real exciting time to be able to really use these resources we've put together and really engage with us. We're open to suggestions. We're open to working with you. And with that, I want to say thank you to our crew and thank you to everybody who is on the stage listening. And I'm really excited that we were able to be with you this year. So thank you, and Brian, take me out.